Well, hello, ladies and gents and friends beyond the binary. Welcome to the Democrat series. This is not going to be your average episode of this series. I'm not profiling a candidate because the debates this week and the polls are likely to get shook up, so I'm waiting for a few of those to come in before we move on with the most interesting candidates and the ones that are the people who are showing most interest in anyway. As I mentioned, the debates have started this week. There were two on Wednesday and Thursday night, featuring 20 of the, I think, about 25 candidates who are running. And this would mark the beginning of the 2020 race proper. Now, they can no longer just host their own stump speeches events that no one pays attention to. Now there's going to be debates. Now they're going to have to engage each other. And as time moves on, people are going to start dropping out and things are going to start getting a little bit more bloody. And I had a number of observations of things that happened during the debates, but really, what we really are speaking to is the emptiness of substance that came out in this debate. And I think it has to do a lot with format. And I kind of just want to go through one significant observation that came out, but then also about how to think about these debates and how to move forward with your own observations. So first of all, we really can't mince words. We have to talk about the Sanders in the room. There was a lot of talk before the debate started that Bernie Sanders' insurgent campaign in 2015 and 2016 had a deep impact on the Democratic Party and the people running. I did not anticipate it was going to be this significant. Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2015 and 2016 and the positions he took are basically now the major talking points of every single Democratic candidate. $15 minimum wage, that's his thing now. Friggin' income inequality, healthcare, all of the things that he brought forward as his big issues, now every candidate has to support to some extent. So what tended to come out in a lot of the debates was these ideas that were popular, that Sanders supporters liked, that then turned out that Democrats liked, and now they have to find ways to say they support these things, but also with heavy caveats to make sure that they can back out and they don't lose any key supporters. Like, for example, almost all 20 of the candidates said that they support Medicare for all. And then when they were asked to raise their hands about who would actually get rid of the health insurance industry, I think like 4 people raised their hands out of all 20. And this is the neoliberal legwork that's getting done right now. They know Bernie Sanders' positions are really popular. They know they are what Americans want, what Democrats want. I think something like over 50% of Republicans are for a public healthcare service, for example. So what they need to do is they need to make somebody who isn't doing a lot of research think that they support their cause while being just enough of a car salesman in order to make you feel like they are your best friend and your hero and not applying for a job. And a lot of legwork is being done by groups like Third Way and even in media like podcasts like the Pod Save America people, where we're going into, like, say, take Medicare for all, the key word of the healthcare debate that's going on. It obviously shows that people were really dissatisfied with Obamacare because it was a half measure that really didn't do anything it set out to do because it gave up on putting in a public health care before it even started. You see people on Pod Save America saying, well, getting Medicare for all doesn't mean that you get rid of private insurance. You even had Pete Buttigieg in the second debate saying that he's for Medicare for all who want it, and a lot of them having plans to eventually get to a public healthcare service. But you can't just take away people's beloved health insurance right away, which I thought was really rich because they are trying to equivocate the idea that if you like your doctor or your hospital, you can keep it with like Blue Shield. And like, I bet you that I could poll Americans and 0% of them would say, man, I really love Blue Shield. Because when you're a centrist liberal and you don't actually have any positions except for whatever gets you into power, you have to say the things that are popular, but you also have to do it in a way that doesn't alienate your mega billionaire donors so that you don't get through. And so they're trying to play lawyer and make up new terms and twist a lot of Sanders' positions so that they can say they agree with it but not actually agree with it. And so even though right now, by like sheer numbers of support in the polls, Joe Biden is the frontrunner, although he completely had a meltdown in a completely expected fashion, nobody was really responding to Joe Biden. Everyone was responding to Bernie Sanders, which I think says a lot about who the ideal leaders are. And it very much sets that the first chapter of this story is going to see who can co-opt these movements from Sanders, or if the Democrats will be able to realize that they're playing another shell game and that that really outside of Sanders, you're not going to get the positions that are advertised. Because a lot of these people, surprisingly, with all of these positions that they believe in, didn't support Bernie Sanders when he was espousing them 3 years ago. As I said, that's just my observation on one aspect of the debate. It was overwhelming to me that everybody was talking about Bernie Sanders' positions because no one else has a strong policy position except for maybe Elizabeth Warren, and nobody seems interested in responding to Elizabeth Warren's platform because I guess she ended up at the debate with all of the other Yeah, I did a couple takes to figure out what I wanted to say to that, and I don't have a good answer. Sorry. Let's move on from observations about what's going on and talk a little bit about the format of the debate. So, if anything, the crowded field of the Republicans in the 2016 election and Donald Trump's run for president shows that there's no downside to running for president and losing, which has resulted in the Democratic field being much larger than it has ever been before, despite the variety of ideas being actually rather thin. But there's 20 candidates, at least, who were in the debates. And so a debate format really doesn't work in the way that you'd think it would. Now, debates are what are expected, so that's why they did it. But with 20 people, you can't really have an airing out of ideas and talking about the distinction points between the different policies. Like, NBC was so strapped for time that they had to reduce some of their important questions to a raise of hands, or telling them that they had to reduce their positions to 2 words, or talking about what is the one issue that you want to take care of. These kinds of things, which are ways to constrain the debate due to time, but really don't get to the heart of anything of actual meaning or substance. So, with that being said, what is the point of the debate? I know that one of the ways they sort of like to frame things is that it's frustrating that these candidates don't answer the questions that are being put forward. And the reason they're doing that is because each of those candidates have professional consultants who know that this debate is not really a debate. It's not about answering questions or responding to other people. The point of a 20-person big debate is just about getting your platform out there, getting your words out there, and also trying to get a few zingers in so that CNN writes a little article about how you won the debate because usually you're the most passionate or you said some really well-rehearsed line. And that is a way in a 20-person field for you to try and stick out of the pack and do something that might snowball into more donors, more supporters, and eventually push you into a more mainstream candidate. So that's why you had a lot of elbow chucking to try and get people's, try to talk and respond to things. This is why you had, for example, kudos to whoever prepped Kamala Harris for her speeches, because she obviously rehearsed probably 2 or 3 dozen sound bites that she could memorize and bring up when the right situation came forward, because she had a lot of clever turns of words. And also she knew that if she came out and was fiery and attacked Biden, that she would be able to clinch more of the right wing of the Democratic Party that she's in. And on top of that, she would be able to get a lot of articles saying, oh, look, Kamala Harris was feisty and like really made an impact at the debate. So all of the candidates know that this is how the game is played, and that's why you had a lot of, especially the candidates that were not in first and second place, are a lot less gun shy trying to get their words in, because they're all they know they're in a crowded field, and they know that they have to find something that so they can punch their way out of obscurity. So for a lot of those candidates, especially the ones hovering in the 1% to 3% range, this was their do or die moment. So with that being the way to look at the debates, who did well and who did poorly? I think that people like Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, who are more near the front of the pack, they really didn't have much to gain. For example, Bernie Sanders just has all the other candidates spouting his ideas for him. But for Joe Biden, who does not have positions because he's more of a neoliberal Democrat, he really only was there because he had to be, because everybody was going to go after him, and obviously he didn't do super great either. The thing about Joe Biden is he's trying to rest on the Obama legacy and his name recognition, which erodes the more contact we actually have with him, so he actually tried to say as little as possible, if you didn't notice. But for everyone else, trying to get your name out there and try to get yourself recognized, there were some successes. I do think that Julian Castro had some pretty good answers. He tried to take people to task. He tried to distinguish himself as a candidate. So in the first debate, he definitely probably did the strongest job of trying to stick out of the pack. For some people like Elizabeth Warren, who have a strong, big policy background, she didn't talk much at all comparatively, which I thought was rather disappointing because she's usually known for being quite a firecracker in like Congress, but she didn't really get out and she didn't really get bloodthirsty that much, which in this crowded debate scene you're going to need to do, or else you're going to start, people are going to start losing their enthusiasm for you. I think Beto O'Rourke tried. I think Bill de Blasio tried. I think Bill de Blasio maybe was a little bit successful. Yeah, the first debate was a lot less interesting and a lot more just because it was Elizabeth Warren and then a bunch of candidates that were way lower on the support range. I guess with Beto O'Rourke, you point out that he answered a question in Spanish, which then everyone had to furiously take down notes that they had to answer a question in Spanish, which, like, for me as a Canadian, like, answering questions in a second language, usually French, is pretty common. It's like a thing you do in federal politics to show that you have inclusivity for our French-speaking citizens. But that's not usually a thing that happens in American debates, so that was kind of unique, but I have no idea where they're going to go from there. In the second debate, I would say that Kirsten Gillibrand did a decent job of trying to stick out of the pack, although it does seem that the Monday morning quarterbackers didn't seem to glom onto that, and so despite the fact that she was doing a good job of elbowing her way some microphone time, it never really did well. Everyone's talking about how great Kamala Harris did because I think with Biden doing so poorly in that debate, that now she's going to be the centrist pick for a while. And so there's going to be a lot of corporate news talking about how great she did. And I mean, as far as the game of trying to say something soundbite worthy, something headline worthy, and getting your name out there and getting microphone time, she won on all of those counts. She knew that this was a place to say as many zippy lines as possible, and she did that very successfully. I would say that Sanders was less successful at that, but also he didn't need to. I think that Sanders knows that his support is not going to come from media coverage, and that really the less he says, the better he'll do, because on a place like MSNBC, where they know that pretty much all mainstream news sources are hostile towards him, the less ammunition he can give them by making any sort of small flubs that could be weaponized against him was good. He knows that his victory is going to be through the ground game and through the volunteer game, which we have yet to see if that is a winning strategy in this day and age, but I think that that's the strategy you need to go for. Although, that being said, he did do, I would argue, the best of the concluding thoughts, the final thoughts, the 45 seconds they had to get their platform across. I thought that went really well. Joe Biden was an absolute Hindenburg. He was a mess. He got called out on all sorts of stuff because he knew that he was the king of the hill that needed to be taken down. And when you have two candidates at the front of the field, one who is socialist and one that is neoliberal, and then you have 18 other neoliberal candidates, they all want to fight for the neoliberal support, so they were all going after Biden in a lot of cases. So they knew that taking him down, and also knowing that Joe Biden was an easy target because he's Joe Biden. He can't say a cogent sentence to save his life, and hasn't since like the 1970s. That was a good shot to go for. Because I think that a lot of people knew that Biden wouldn't do well, and so a lot of this debate was about also trying to see if you could carve off the biggest hunk of Joe Biden's support as you could afterwards. And I mean, also in the second debate, we have to give our wonderful crystal due to the real star of the debate and the person who walked away with the meme award of the show, which was Marianne Williamson, who, while that probably didn't help her in the support department, definitely put her name on the map. Even if she gets eliminated, I really want Marianne Williamson to just be in the debates just to make them more fun. So that's like how to watch the debate when it's crowded. Once they start closing down the field a little bit, which there's another debate at the end of July, which I think goes down to 10 candidates, and even that's going to be pretty crowded. So it's really not until like later in the summer / into the fall that we're going to get like really like debates. So this is more of what it's going to be like. So how to watch the debate is to see which people were able to convey their platform, and if you want to be more if you want to pretend to be a wonk political consultant of your own, you can talk about who was able to get the zingers in, who was able to get the most microphone time, that kind of stuff. That's like, I guess, like the things you should watch to get juice out of the debate. As far as how not to watch the debate, and unfortunately the way that a lot of people will, is that very often the things said and the topics discussed in the debate don't matter as much as people's presentation and tone of voice and the like I said, the 3 to 5 word things that will get quoted in the news. And because those things create stronger memories in our brains, that's like the thing that's going to end up with more success. If you're watching Step Back, though, I would hope that you would be above that and that you'll think more about how the ideas were conveyed across. And if you go by that method, I would say that Bernie won because everyone was just talking about how well they copied his homework. So, Okay, I think that's about everything I've got for the debate. I know it's a little short compared to this series where I seem to always want to talk forever, but this is still early days. I think now with the debate starting, it's the beginning of people really starting to pay attention, or at least the people who are interested in this kind of stuff. And as we move into the next debates, as the field gets smaller, you're starting to see more and more of how this race is really going to shape up and what the real issues are going to be, because we have until February next year for the first caucuses and primaries. So these debates will be a ongoing show in the meantime, but now things are going to be starting in earnest. They've now contacted each other. In other news, I wanted to point out near the end that as of 2 days ago now, I'm actually a full-time YouTuber. I left my day job, and now this is my thing now. I will really need some help to keep the lights on and keep this going, and hopefully make this questionable life choice that I just made happen. So if you want to help keep the lights on here at Step Back and take this burning the ships thing, help work out for me, you can go to patreon.com/stepbackhistory and give as low as $1 a month. It all really, really helps. And I could really, really use your help right now. And if you don't want to contribute financially, I totally get it. You can share my video with other people, and that will help as well. Other last thing I want to talk about is that anybody who is in Toronto or the Toronto area, this weekend, Saturday, July 6th, 2019, we're going to be having a big Left Tube meetup. There's going to be some really great people there. Jose from the Jose channel, Thought Slime, Mexi, Black Goat 666, and myself are going to be at this event. It's going to be at 7 o'clock at a place called Bureaucracy. There'll be a link to the Facebook event down in the description. You can go there. All right, friends, keep watching the skis, and I'll see you next time.